Welcome to Professor Sky's Spam channel. You know, on my other channel, my music channel, I'm always positive. That's my shtick, partly. You know, I believe in supporting artists, and there's too many people out there saying negative things about art. But this is my spam channel. This is where I get to say whatever I think. And I think a lot of negative things about a lot of art, you know? I don't want to highlight that. I don't want that to be my brand. I find negativity to be boring, except when I have something interesting to say that is negative. Yesterday I released a video about the Ghostbusters remake, reboot, regurgitation, and whatever that was, I hope it brought some new insight, some new light as to why it's bad. And that's what I want to do with The House of Gucci. Now, first of all, I've heard some people claim that this is a camp movie that's intentionally bad. That's garbage. This is made by Ridley Scott. He's a very serious director who takes himself very seriously. I like Ridley Scott a fair amount. I even like some of his movies that people consider to be a miss. I think Prometheus is great as an example. I actually like Prometheus more than Blade Runner. Feel free to get angry at me in the comments. But why is this movie a failure? Well, I mean, a movie is composed of a lot of things. And I'm going to sort of do an ad hoc simplification of a movie. You know, it's a story that takes place in a world, a certain time and a place about a certain subject. And The House of Gucci fails on almost every front, except for the story. The story is fascinating, you know, dynasty and murder and intrigue, class. My favorite aspect of the movie is one which they didn't really develop, was the theme of the arriviste, which is a French term that refers to somebody who starts from nothing, arrives in society, and climbs their way up the social ladder to arrive at the top. There is a parallel mentioned, but not at all developed, between Lady Gaga's character and the deceased founder of Gucci, who started with nothing and ended up creating this whole empire. The greatest strength in the movie, I would say, is a strength that is something I've heard referred to as a weakness, which is that none of the characters really know what they want. There's a scene, which I'll get into later, and spoilers, by the way, so just deal with it. That sounded angry. I don't mean that. I find it boring when people talk about spoilers. Not as boring as my nose getting red throughout this video. I'd like you to, in the comments, describe how red is my video. How red is my nose? So, and I don't edit, so I'm not going to cut out that mistake. So we have like this psychic who asks Lady Gaga's character, "What do you want?" and she can never answer. And we never know what she wants, and we never know what Adam Driver wants. We never quite know what anybody wants, and that is the greatest strength of the movie. Unfortunately, most of the rest of the movie really fails. In particular, it is in creating this world. You know, this is a world of culture and commerce, right? That's the whole idea, that fashion is a culture, but it's also a business, and how do these things go together? And as a movie about commerce, it was passable. I sort of understood the corporate intrigue, like a little bit. Not really. It was a little bit fudged through. It was very badly edited. But it was really in culture that I think this movie is the biggest insult. This movie is an insult to culture, not just fashion. It's a language to what we call the artifacts of culture, you know? Well, okay, to a couple things. The artifacts, music and fashion, and also language. So let's talk about language. I have read many articles now and listened to a couple podcasts about how bad these accents are. Oh ho ho, it's so funny that these accents are bad. I argue that's not the problem. The problem is not that the accents are bad, although they are bad. I mean, Jared Leto is, I believe, going straight from the set to save Princess Peach in the Toad Kingdom. I mean, they are bad. They are inconsistent. Half the time you don't know if Lady Gaga is supposed to be Hungarian or Italian. But it's that they shouldn't be there in the first place. It's the concept that is flawed, not the execution. This is the thing. So I am a professor of French, so I teach a second language. And we live in a world of complete linguistic hegemony, okay? English is dominant. It is a linguistic imperialism that is spread throughout the world. There's something about having American actors be in Italy speaking with an Italian accent that is particularly insulting. Not just because, of course, they could have just gotten Italian actors. They could have just had the movie be in Italian, but of course not. It's made by Hollywood. It's further emphasizing the domination of American culture over the rest of the world. But they don't sound like Italians speaking English. They sound like Americans imitating Italians speaking English. There's even a couple points in the movie where somebody says, how do you say? How are you saying, how do you say, if you are speaking in your native language? The whole time we're supposed to imagine, when they're in Italy, that they are speaking the language that they were born with. Sorry, even though I'm outside, you can still hear the dogs inside. Bo and Toby are quite dedicated. So it's a huge problem because, and especially the way it's mixed in with the tourist words, grazie and prego and like just, counting to 4 in Italian, it really emphasizes the fact that Americans are so insistent that in this boutique drama, in this Oscar bait drama, they have to make some nod to the fact that these people are not American, and so they throw these accents on. I think it's insulting. I think, hey, you have American actors, have them speak in English. It really does matter. It really does matter as a mistake, as a statement. It is faux humility. It is acting as though it is making some kind of nod to the source material, when really it's just insulting it. If you're speaking English, just speak English. And moreover, movies are supposed to be in a time and place, right? So where are we half the time? We don't know where we are, because when they're in America, they're speaking Italian with a bad fake Italian accent in English, and when they're in New York and when they're in Italy, they're speaking exactly the same. And then the movie doesn't tell you where you are one or the other, and they keep going back in between them to the point where you don't have any sense of place. None whatsoever. Particular painful, I would say, is Al Pacino's performance, which, can we just say that Al Pacino and Jared Leto are, not good actors? They are actors who have had good performances, who have been amazing actors, but right now, they're just so into this weird parody of themselves that it's unrecognizable. I don't know. One of the biggest issues is, I am a French professor, and as an American who speaks French, when I want to imitate French, the way they speak, I do very good. Because I have idea, the mistake make is not too difficult, because I speak the both language. It's not perfect. It's pretty good though, because I know the mistakes. I know where they make the mistakes. When you're speaking with an accent from someone else, there needs to be humility. My wife is Serbian, and I don't yet speak Serbo-Croatian. I can't imitate that language, even though I'm married to somebody who speaks with a very slight accent. You can't just go, it's a me, and say that you're speaking Italian. You just can't. There was a good Slate article that mentioned one of the other crucial details, that there's no gesticulating. It's a joke, it's a way that people make fun of Italians, but it's a true part of their culture. The same way that the French really do this with their mouth, a lot. The Italians move their hands around a lot. They speak with their hands. It's part of how they speak. It's actually part of their language. So to have Adam Driver just a nutcracker, just standing there, moving around his face, without ever moving his hands, it is just plain insulting. But let me tell you the thing that really bothered me. Sorry, it's actually starting to snow again, and there was some deers out there, chewing on some bushes. It's very nice out here. I'm getting into recording outside, even though my nose is getting... How red is my nose getting? Please put it in the comments. Oh, and subscribe. I now have 1,000 subscribers on my spam channel. Never thought that would be. I now want to talk about music, which is, as you hopefully know, my main passion on YouTube. Now listen, I don't like cinema sins. I don't like plot holes, okay? The daughter in this movie is born, and then she's 7 years old on screen. I don't care. That's fine. You want to kind of jump ahead. The daughter doesn't really matter. She isn't really an important character. That I notice it, but I don't consider that to be a problem. The music in this movie is a serious, serious problem. To me, it bothered me more than the accents. Music, when used, the way that this movie is using it tries to put you in a place. It tries to put you in a time. That is how music is used. Thanks to Martin Scorsese for largely making this work. But the movie begins in the 1970s, and the first song is from the 60s. Okay. It's the Italian language cover of I'm a Believer. Now, this is a thing that movies have been doing a lot. Whenever they want to play something in Italy or in France, they do the French or Italian language version of an American song. But that was very popular in the 60s. It's a standard thing to do. It makes Americans feel comfortable while still feeling like they're exposed to some new culture, which, by the way, which is what this entire damn movie is about. I'm experiencing Italian culture. Look, it's I'm a Believer in Italian. Okay. Sorry. I'm a multiculturalist. That's what I hate the most. I hate fake multiculturalism. And that's what was going on in a lot of this movie. So it starts off in the 70s with a song from the 60s. Then it moves on to a disco scene, diegetic music. That is to say, music actually in the movie. And it's a disco song. Now already, the disco song is fine. We're here, we're fine. I'm okay with the Monkees cover because as long as the music comes before the time that it's set, it's okay. Marie Antoinette put a whole bunch of modern songs in 18th century France. That's a great movie. Bad accents. That's a great movie, right? That's a great movie with bad accents. But that use of music was very intentional. But the thing that Scorsese doesn't do is you don't put music ahead of the time that you're watching. Because you're supposed to put someone in a time and in a place. So when Adam Driver and Lady Gaga get married in 1979, the loudest song, the most noticeable song in the entire movie, is Faith by George Michael. Wham! Would be founded in 1981, 2 years after this. George Michael would leave Wham! In 1986. The song Faith would come out in 1987. So all along I've been going along, okay, music tells us that I'm in Italy, music tells us I'm in the late 70s, and here we are in 1979, and then paf! Got to have faith, the faith, the faith. I'm taken back to my 6th grade dance where Fubba, this kid Fubba, pushed me over onto the ground and all the kids circled around me and laughed at me while Faith was playing. Okay? That's what I'm remembering. I'm remembering what it was like growing up in the 80s. This is a growing up in the 80s song. It might as well have been the goddamn Ghostbusters theme. It matters not because it's a plot hole, okay? If they played a song that came out in 1980 but was still the same general style of music that was popular at the time, that'd be one thing. Matter of fact, 20 minutes later, in this like 4.5-hour movie, they play Eurythmics. So it's like 1980, and they're playing the Eurythmics, a song, Here Comes the Rain Again, from 1983. But you know what? No problem. There's no problem. Because they're indicating the transition from the 70s to the 80s, from, sorry, that's my daughter texting me. She wants some breakfast. I'll get her some in a second. We're moving from the 70s to the 80s. We're moving to the time of new wave from the time of disco. So you want to put in Eurythmics a couple years too early? Absolutely no problem with that. That doesn't mess it up. In a similar way, they play I Feel Love. Okay, we're kind of going backwards. A little bit of a disco song. But again, I Feel Love sort of announced the new wave with its usage of synthesizers. A bit backwards, but that's fine. And then at a fashion montage, a getting dressed up montage set in 1983, they play a fifth of Beethoven. I got so mad, and I'm not joking. You can ask the Dr. and Mrs. if you ever meet her. I got up out of the movie theater, and I left. I was so mad at this mistake. It's not even a mistake. This is a choice. A fifth of Beethoven is one of the quintessential disco songs in which somebody took Beethoven's fifth and cut it up and turned it into a disco song. So I've been sitting here and I'm like, okay, we're in the disco era. Oh, okay, we're in Faith. All right, that's a little bit too much. Okay, we're back in Eurythmics. Okay, and now we're having peak disco, a song which only means 1975 to 1980, a song that never, ever, they might as well have played My Darling Clementine. They might as well have played In the Mood by the Glenn Miller Orchestra. Like, it was a completely I felt destroyed. Between this and Faith, I felt as though I was watching a big screen with the word red written in blue letters. You understand me? Like it's just complete and total cognitive dissonance. Time and place matter. If you're doing a period drama that is trying to be successful, that is trying to set you in this world, that's my neighbor, this world of fashion. Fashion, which I was all ready to get into. I like fashion. I don't really understand it. I know the Gucci loafers are a big deal. They're mentioned for like 1 second. I didn't feel swept away, and the fashion didn't seem right. The haircuts didn't seem right. They didn't put time markers enough throughout the movie so that you never knew what was happening, and you couldn't tell because the daughter wasn't in it enough. You could sort of tell by Lady Gaga's hair, except they got the hair wrong. So she had 1989 hair in 1984, and then in 1985 she has 1987 hair, and then in 1995 she has 1988 hair. It's all very confusing. The fashion doesn't quite fit. So, it fails on fashion, fails on music. No time, no place, no space. It's an offense to to those who are fighting English. Sorry, my daughter called me. I now have to edit this video together. It's okay. She wants breakfast. I understand. We have leftover biscuits, which we put honey on. The Dr. and Mrs. made some biscuits. They're quite good. So don't worry, she will get good breakfast. We then get to the final point, which is society. Culture is built up of artifacts like music and art. It's built up of language. And one of the other things it's built up with is norms, just societal norms. And this movie does not respect European, Italian cultural norms. Who helped me figure this out? My wife, a European, okay? There's a scene where Lady Gaga gets upset and she starts just pounding gelato while watching TV. That doesn't happen. That's not a trope. Europeans don't get big containers of ice cream and just start eating ice cream to eat their feelings. That's an American trope. That's things that happen in America. And then she's watching a psychic on TV and there's an 800 number. That's not how telephone numbers work in Europe. And then later, Jared Mario's gets upset, and he starts saying how he's so poor, he doesn't even have basic cable. Basic cable in 1987? The term I don't even think existed in America, much less in Italy. There's no basic cable. There's either cable or no cable, and it certainly wasn't expected. There would perhaps the richest of the richest would have some kind of satellite system. Most people would just, get the extra channels that were pay channels as opposed to the free channels that you paid with your taxes. That's the way things worked in Europe. And it's just offensive. It's just like the accents. It's just like everything's the same. Things are different when we feel like they are. Everything's the same when we don't. And it's made for an audience that I am hoping knows the difference. I am hoping that this prestige drama is made for people who care about multiculturalism, who care about other societies and other cultures, who care about the fact that this Italian company made something which resounds throughout the world, But instead, we just get a bunch of American cheap jokes with American cheap actors doing cheap acting, trying to get a cheap Oscar, and the whole thing, and it's too long and it was boring and I didn't enjoy it. I liked Ghostbusters a lot more. It's a lot more fun to watch. I was at least never bored. Whereas this movie, I was just praying for it to end at a certain point. Okay, there. I'm negative. I'm not gonna go get my daughter her biscuit. Got my neighbor over there going out. I think bringing in the trash. Over there, I have like these McMansions across the way from me. There are these kids playing. It's kind of nice. McMansions are often kind of cold, but when kids are playing, they're nice. Speaking of cold, look at my hands. Okay, there's the camera.